Okay. So, hello and welcome everybody. Sorry for this delay. So our moderator has, I think, some technical issues. So welcome. Our first speaker is Mr. Agus Maha Usada, the Vice Chairman of the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce. Would you please, sir, unmute yourself and start? Mr. Agus, please unmute yourself. You are muted.
Yes, a second.
Okay, yes. Okay, sir, please.
Can you see my
Yes, we can see your
share
yes, we
screen?
can, yes.
Okay, thank you. So okay, I will try to sharing some issues. But I introduce myself. I'm Agus. As you know, my complete name is Agus Mahusada. Actually, I'm from Bali. I'm the chairman of Nawacita Pariwisata Tourism Industrial, as well the chairman of vice chairman of Kadin Business Chamber of Industrial in Bali. I had my background experience is 35 years in properties actually, with some experience project investment as well the resort development as well retail. I'm starting some retail project actually in Indonesia, and most of the Bali retail project I involved since early 90. And for hotel experience, I've started involving around 82. It's the first time I built involved on the 5-star hotel development in Bali. And then if you take a look from, I just explain from Bali experience first. What we're facing in Bali lately today is according to the situation where we are after pandemic. We are now looking a new pattern, a new situation where we're gonna end up with the new mechanism or structure of the tourism itself within the global new trend in terms of traffic activities, as well the policy and the economic situation, which is changing a lot after this pandemic, especially in the lifestyle. And then if you take a look deeper on the Bali development, if we remember the period when the first time we launched the Love and Eat, Pray and Love movie, I think it's 10, 15 years ago. At that time, we back to the nature, to the lifestyle where we seen Ubud develop today. Yeah, before we talking to the Ecolot itself, let I go back in that period. With Julia Roberts movie at that time is improving and promoting a lot about the nature and the characteristic of the spirit of Bali. Where in that movie, a lot of interaction, a lot of improvement within the modernity of the tourism itself, which is the overseas people coming into Bali, to the island, and how this movie is able to create, digging, develop, and presenting something is hiding in Bali, which is within the spirit itself, which is the real strength of Bali. And then after this period, a lot of new small boutique type of development, other than the 5-star luxury lifestyle and real international management standard of operational hotel development in Nusa Dua area, in Kuta as well, other area. Ubud is presenting a different thing. The angle is different. They grow with the naturality, with the characteristic of the local people, how they interact one to the others. As well, behind that, how the careness, how the attention of being developed and put the attention on the natural way of the environment is in there. Believe or not, at that situation, a lot of the development is presenting the Trihita Karana. The development where is coming towards to, what do you call it? Hold on, I just tried to moving my screen. I found difficulties to move my page. Okay. We facing the spirit of understanding how the environment is keep put an attention as a priority of the developments. And then since that, a lot of the inspiration coming up within the spirit of Bali from the Eat, Pray, and Love itself, as well the naturality of Bali, which is blanket under the culture, the activity of the Balinese itself. Talking about the ecologies, which is, I believe Bali is quite rich in culture heritage into the design operational, where on the daily activity of the ecolog itself is not just about the management. As I discussed earlier, it's about the spirit itself. Deep, the root of the activity is the spirit of the Bali itself, which is the cultures. The cultures, without the environment, without the peoples, and then without the interaction between people and the God who believe to make this all happen, in Bali is really there. That's what we call Trihita Karana. And today, the ecology after this pandemic is become being one of the alternatives. It's for the small island of Bali, actually ecology is one of the option alternative small scale development for medium investor or medium investment. In the other side, ecology is quite ideal for Balinese people who can interact directly within the guest itself and the local communities. Because no matter what, the ecology will be requesting a community participation or a community involvement within the development itself. Most of the ecologies, if talking about the real ecology itself, it should to be blended with the environment, with the area, as well with the people surrounded, which is the village itself. And then in Bali, when you involve on the development of the area and the community, the culture is there. The local with the religion, with the Hindu religion, a lot of the cultural activity behind it, where it's become the naturality of the spirit, where people can see it, can participate in the harmony. Yes. And then if we take a look from that sustainability expectation, now all over the world expecting green, green, green. In Bali, within the naturality itself, about the sustainability development itself, they believe not just in the sustainability responsibility, but also in the culture integration. They believe that sustainability is part of the daily life, which is they celebrate a specific ceremony for specific days we call Tumpak Bubu, expecting the all green thing have to be taken care. They're not just taking care in physical way, but they also taking care in the harmony of relationship and philosophy to the God, which is really inside. If this concept development and philosophies is come up into the design of the building, within the architectural side, as well the what do you call it, the development of the operational of the eco village itself. I think that's what one of the opportunity development or investment in Bali, Saksmol of Bali, or maybe other area of Indonesia with the different culture itself. A lot of things behind this is need a personal touch, personal feeling of everybody's involved on the development itself. So back to the things, when you're talking about ecologies, definitely we are talking about a few, we're talking about naturality, we're talking about culture, we're talking the most important thing is the spirit. Within that spirit, we're not gonna have it if we don't involving what the surround activities. Cultural program is not gonna be works like in the 5-star hotel or the international hotel where become only performance. In the eco lodge, the cultural program itself is the local activities of the villages, the daily activity of the peoples. That's the activities, that's the value of the eco lodge. So for Bali, the eco lodge itself is not just a matter of accommodation. It should be a real live tourism facility and activities, which we believe this kind of product can be implemented also in the other area nicely, subject to based on the naturality situation and also the people understanding about how they participating in the tourism industry itself. So talking about the sustainability, the what do you call it, the environment itself, ecologist should be practicality, what do you call it, in the new modern technology as well. The wastewater design, the power, green power from whatever, from waters, from solar panel, it should to be there. We should to combine the new technology, the new system with the local environment or the local wise technology that suitable for the area is become blended into one system. And then behind it, social responsibility is become one thing that gonna be happen every single days in the activities, not just a program. So I believe ideal location, for example, to have that, of course, offering the natural beauty of Bali itself, but Bali scenery is live because of the cultures. Other island in Indonesia, I believe the scenery, the view, the natural beauty, a lot of them is more better than Bali. And which is, that's another opportunity actually, you know, subjecting to, what do you call it, water area focus, or mountain focus, or other things that can be creating in other area of Bali. But in Bali itself, that naturality is live with that spirit. So developing in Bali for this eco lodge, having one benefit that others cannot have it, is the surround spirit. But to have that, a lot of effort and of understanding how we design and put this inside of the life of the eco lodge itself. As I mentioned earlier in the earlier discussion, sharing, in here I try to summarize a bit about benefit for Bali culture and communities. You know, culture prevention by promoting and presenting Balinese culture, eco lodge village help to safeguard the island and heritage of future generation. In the other way, while we're saving, that's really the CSR of the ecolots. In the other way, with that understanding, with the cultural prevention within the operational of the resort of the ecolots, that's also already CSR of participation of the Balinese. The economic benefit, because ecolodge itself is located mostly in the village, with the participation in the village, economic growth definitely is already there. And then the cross-cultural exchange. I remember at the early 70s how we grow Puta area, for example. Mostly it's because of the interaction within the local and the tourists, and become friends, become family, become business partners. That's the way they grow. But today, with more understanding, with more knowledge, with more technology, I think this ecolots, if we do manage it properly, maybe in the assumption, ecolot is classified as okay, it's a non-star type of development. But actually, if we do it correctly within today, ecolots can be developed anywhere in the island within that right location, again to the regulation, again to the operational requirement of interaction with the local communities or benefit of the scenery, for example. In this situation, if you take a look Bali Islands, on the north side and the east south part of Bali, at the moment, development is concentrated in the south part of Bali. If we take a line in the middle of Bali, horizontal line in the middle of Bali, within this particular area from west to east of Bali, we have a mountain along this line. When we do ecologs, it's not necessary you take out the green thing of the islands, but I believe the ecolog can also manage and taking care of the green even better, the environment even better if we do it correctly. In this particular area, if we take a look, I believe this become attractive site for the development of ecologs. In the north of Bali, in the Singaraja area, in this particular area from Lovina up to up to Tulamben area in Karangasem, Tejakula in this side, it's really attractive spot. A lot of the hillside with the environment, with nice view of the ocean, nice communities. It's just, we have to understand which area we want to enter, subject to the market as well. Now, if you take a look, there's some example of they call ecolodge activities, which is, if you take a look, the position is mostly in this center of Bali, which is the accessibility is still affordable. So back to the situation that we were talking about the ecolodge itself. Sorry, do I still have time?
Maybe 1 or 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So back to the real situation, if we're talking about ecolodge in Bali, actually ecolodge itself, we can really playing around with the investment configuration in terms of the numbers. Actually, if we smartly manage the design of development of ecolodge itself, participating the local, even in some villages, the ecolodge itself, already the village itself, it's not necessary sometimes adding additional building or accommodation facilities. what we can do sometimes is just improving the facilities within the village. That's another possibility that if we creative enough. And then talking about the investment opportunity, definitely the eco lodge itself is can creating, I believe, within my experience,
You please go to the
greater
next slide
of
because
investment.
your slide are fixed. We don't see the next slide. So your PowerPoint
Pardon?
your PowerPoint is still fixed on the first slide. So I think you should go to the next. If you see your slides, you see is still the same as the first one. So just click to go to the next slide. Well, okay.
Yeah,
Don't.
thanks. Back to the real concept and philosophies of the ecology for Bali, because which is can be discussed for other area. Definitely, is about the situation is how we environmentally able to manage and anticipate the impact of the environment. That's the most important thing, I think, within my explanation out of the CSR itself, which I believe the SRR for Ecolod itself is not necessarily like a formal corporate CSR, but can become an interaction within the activities of the daily life of the villages or the people who participate within the area of the Ecolod itself. I think that's at the moment what I can share in this discussion. Waiting for others speakers to share as well, maybe commenting or developing further what I've been shared earlier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Still sorry that we had a small technical problem with our moderator, but he just called me and the whole area in Bali, the electricity is gone. There is no internet. So that was the problem and he's still away. So our next speaker is Mr. Florian Holm. And I would like to ask him to introduce himself by himself in short, if possible. And please start, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to ask if everyone can see the presentation.
Yes.
I'm sharing now. Okay,
yes.
Awesome. So about myself, very briefly, I'm Flo. I'm the founder and CEO of Green Resort Uluwatu. And I'm actually, so this is a eco-luxury resort that we have built in Uluwatu. And as being an operator within the eco space, I thought today I want to share a couple of learnings from building eco resort. So the idea for Green Resort Uluwatu really began with the land itself. So we were quite lucky to find this big land on the top of Uluwatu, partially forestry, partially overlooking the ocean, with a total of 4 hectares. And for us, when we saw this land, it was very clear that we want to work with nature and not against it. From our business, we built tree houses. So what we did is we built these tree houses within the existing environment, so around the trees that already existed there, ensuring that we have like a very spacious spacing between the units. And today, after a development period of 3 years with partial development, we have 57 tree houses spread across these 4 hectares of land, creating a very natural experience for our guests. I've learned I've learned a lot of things along the way. So I just want to share a couple of learnings regarding the development of the space. The first one is, sorry, I'm trying. The first learning is build something unique that speaks to you personally. I was lucky enough that I didn't have any hospitality experience, and I created something that, you know, I didn't have a reference for, but this has turned out, you know, this has been proven to be very important. So when we look at guest feedback, they definitely comment a lot on having an experience that reflects a unique vision by the founder, by the creator of the space. I think that is a huge advantage, because when you build an eco lodge, you're not in the conventional hotel space. And I think people really appreciate that. They appreciate a unique approach, and in the end also something that creates a stronger emotional connection to your guests by creating this space with a personal touch and not in a conventional setting. So always recommending that. Then number 2, let nature be your star. So nature in itself is an incredible asset, and you don't need to over curate it. We found that guests really appreciate the simplicity. They appreciate the quiet, the green, the trees, and it's for us very nice as well, because we keep it in a rustic way, and it turns out that the less you do, the better it can be. The third learning we had when we started operating our eco lodge is to double down on your target group. So when we started operating, we had, of course, I mean, we made sure that we attract a guest that appreciates what we are offering in terms of like being very close in nature, which comes with all kind of perks, but also some things that, of course, you need to be the type of person who appreciates that, right? And what we found out is that the target group, or the guests who appreciate this nature setting, are also appreciating things like wellness, meditation, yoga. And so what we started doing is we, aside from having our, you know, like unique setup there in nature with our tree houses, we started adding these components as an experience for our guests. So we are offering now a free yoga class, meditation, and we even built a retreat village. So as a second development stage, we got this feedback from guests on like, wow, you know, we would love to do a retreat here. Like, can we do that? And we had the space, so we went and built a retreat village with a dedicated yoga shala. So in total, we even have.
I'm sorry, your PowerPoint is not moving. Is that just one page, or because I saw also people sending message?
No, it's several pages, and
okay, you are still on the same first page, so I don't see anything changing.
Yeah, unfortunately I'm seeing I moved it from my side. I'm seeing page number 3 by now.
You're on page number. You're on the financials page now. Flo.
Now double down on your target group.
Yes, you're good. You're good. Double down.
Right. Okay, at least Maitri, you see it, yeah. So that is what we did. We built a retreat village, and as a latest addition, we added as well like a sauna, hot and cold plunges. And I think that is one thing that we learned along the way. It's great if you have an eco concept, but you still want to make sure you have a really deep engagement or deep offering for your guests that goes beyond the nature component, and that ideally is a reinforcing component, right? So to not go out there and only offer one unique selling point as a resort. Lastly, financial. So I think that is something that is obviously from a developer perspective hugely important. For us personally, this development has worked very well. We also have to say we were at the right time at the right place. We were definitely lucky as well with the land, but we've seen a very good occupancy and very good financial numbers. And we also want to continue developing eco-conscious spaces. So the one learning that we have there is, well, we need generous space, right? We need to have a good amount of space, and we need a unique selling point from a nature experience perspective, which can be views, which can be, maybe for other locations, it could be a beach, it could be a waterfall in the mountains. And I think that is really key as of our learnings, to make sure that you get the right land, you get the spacious land, and you need to make sure you get the land at a price that enables you to operate profitably. What I think is less key is to be exactly in a hotspot. We actually are, right? So a bit hard for me to say, but I think that is the one advantage you have. If you have a great location from a nature experience, I'm 100% convinced people and your guests are going to travel there. So key is really to get the right land at a good price. As a final thought from our side, so we are a big fan. I'm glad I did it. I think eco resorts are not only something that guests really appreciate and that add a lot of value to the guests. They are financially well to operate. And I think most importantly, especially, in a place like Bali that is in many parts overdeveloped, I think it's a way to offer a gentler development of an area within the tourism sector. So very much rooting for it, and hope we're going to see more eco resorts, not only in Bali, but all over the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I see our moderator, I think, is back. Ross, are you here?
Yeah, I am. And this is somewhat embarrassing because I spoke to the folks that had the internet service, and I said, there is just no way this internet service will go down. And of course, within about 5 seconds of my presentation, this happened. But anyway, look, I want to congratulate you that you've been able to keep this on track in some way. Thank you, Dr. Reza. What I'd like to do now, and I do apologise, Florian, that I will have to look at this. You forced me to review this presentation after the event, so I look forward to hearing what you said. I wish I was here to hear it, but there you are. Thank you for your contribution. I'd like to jump to Maitri Fisher, who's the co-founder and principal ESD engineer of Eco Mantra, a leading consultancy specialising in sustainable resource systems and environmentally sustainable designs for hotels and resorts across Southeast Asia. His expertise in green engineering, renewable energy and environmental performance makes him a key contributor to the webinar, particularly in addressing how eco resorts can reduce impact while enhancing guest experience. So it's over to you, Maitri. You'll have to unmute.
Okay. I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Great. Hi, good afternoon for participants from Indonesia, and good whatever it is for participants from all over the world. I'll be talking a little bit about eco resorts, how investing into ecological sustainability is also financially sustainable. Let me get my controls going. All right, here we are. So I grew up in Bali. That's me as a little boy with my sister. And that's Father Christmas or Santa Claus walking through the rice fields. Maybe some of you know this road. This is Jalan Bisma in the very early 90s. Now it's a paved road with a lot of big hotels. Growing up here meant that I was quite immersed in the culture and very much enjoyed it and still am. I went off and studied abroad, and during that time, while studying abroad, I also witnessed the growth of mass tourism in Bali. We saw, visitors go from I left for university in 2006. I graduated in 2010 with my bachelor's and moved on to my master's degree. But we saw between that time visitors go from 4 million to, I came back to Bali in 2014 to 10 million, and then blast off into 17 million that we saw pre-pandemic numbers. So from 4 million to 17 million in about 15 years, meaning also that we saw a massive growth in hotels. And with that, of course, with massive came mass tourism. So mass tourism is a little bit like the fish in the bowl. When you have a few tourists, things are fairly comfortable and we don't have a massive impact on the environment. But if you put hotel after hotel after hotel on the beachfront, you're going to start poisoning the environment and seeing the impacts of that. That in Bali shows up as, waste on the side of the street, mismanaged burning, water crisis, and really high emission factors for our energy grid, as well as a lot of friction between the Balinese and the tourists, or the local culture and the tourists, and of course, traffic jams, as Bali has become famous for. Bali has gone from growing to the #1 destination in the world to now being largely complained about with all kinds of problems. And the question is it sustainable for Bali to keep going the way it is? And as tourists become more discerning, we see that actually the quality of tourism is decreasing. Mass tourism means we have people stay less long, spend less, and generally, markets which are not providing quality tourism and a lot of income are increasing faster than people that have higher spending power. And this is reducing the quality of the tourism as well. So Mantra, my company, is a response in a way to seeing my home degrade over time. And what we do is what's called environmentally sustainable design. We work with leaders in the space and developers to create eco-friendly destinations and experiences. Experiences are very important by integrating sustainable design principles in the development of one-of-a-kind properties. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, but it does describe what we do quite well. Why invest in sustainability? So I'm a scientist, I'm very data-driven, but what we've seen over time, since we started the company, is actually more and more people in hospitality want an experience that has a lower impact, maybe sustainable, maybe even regenerative. Yeah, 73% of global hotel visitors would prefer an eco-sustainable hotel, and 43% of travelers are willing to pay more for it. So this is incredibly significant. We talk a lot about the intangible value of sustainable. It's very hard to put a number to the brand value and the loyalty that it creates, but we can talk about the tangible, which is what we can measure. So I will talk a little bit more about that, but it's really important to understand that, the value of sustainability goes way beyond just what we can measure. Some examples, I've picked a bunch of examples and it's going to be a bit of a plethora of this and that. And at the very end, I want to show you what the financial analysis looks like. So on the water side, we usually start our work by analyzing where water will be consumed in a property. This is in the design stage. And you can see in this particular example, irrigation and pools and water-cooled chillers are the biggest consumers of water. And in this particular case, we have a deficit of water in the dry season. This is a property in the Bukit. So we need a water system to respond to the environmental conditions that the property is in. This is what we call an integrated water model, or what we call an integrated water management system. Here we've combined for this particular resort, rainwater harvesting, recharge wells, wastewater recycling, which goes into lily ponds in the property and is used for landscapes. The recharge wells then also distribute a lot of the rainwater back into the ground, and also the excessive wastewater that's not used. We also have efficient landscapes and blah, 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 which are the standards. You guys are all aware of the best practices. So efficient appliances actually can reduce, water consumption of between 5 to 11% in a hotel, which is massive, but it actually shows up in the numbers in the models. Best practices, if you're in a dry area like the Bukit, the south of Bali, is to use water efficient landscapes with drip irrigation and water drought tolerant plants. That in this case has a massive impact of 77% on the resort water consumption. Swimming pools are a huge consumer of water, and we have different kinds of technology. We can move away from the conventional sand filters. You can use pleated cartridge filters, regenerative filters, active media filters with recycled glass. There's all kinds of things, but pools are a huge consumer, especially if you're on the eco resort side where every villa has a pool. Yeah, not so eco, I know, but that's another challenge. Rainwater harvesting can have a massive impact. In this particular example, it's 11% reduction in the groundwater consumption. And this is another example from a project in Ubud, using recharge wells throughout the property to promote recharge and infiltration of stormwater into the ground and have a massive impact on, the sustainability of your aquifers and your groundwater systems. Bali is facing a water crisis. Recycling wastewater to wetlands and ponds and irrigation systems can have huge impacts. This is a real example from a design case where we reduced the resort consumption by 14%, but there are some examples where that's been even more, up to 30%. Having your own drinking water facilities has a massive impact. It's also really good financially. We do plan in a lot of drinking water facilities for our clients so that they can make their own glass bottled and on-site washed and recycled containers. That obviously also reduces your waste massively. And benchmarking. I think it's really important that we talk about data in a way that when you're designing something, you actually have certain targets in mind to achieve with the efficiency at the very least and the sustainability of your design. So this is an example of a very high-end 5-star project resort. And we are trying to go for best in class for this class of resort, which is 2,000 liters per occupied room, which is quite high for a standard eco resort, which would typically aim for like 450 liters per guest, just under 1,000 liters in occupied room. So here you can see that the impact of sustainable design was able to reduce the groundwater consumption by 58% in total. And we've eliminated some cooling towers. Cooling towers are more efficient in energy, but very wasteful in water. And this is in a water scarce area. So we've prioritized water scarcity and water efficiency opposed to energy efficiency. Site analysis, which I think is quite common these days, it forms the basis of what we call passive design when we look at energy consumption. We need to understand how we can impact the microclimate. If you guys go to Grun Resort, you'll see that it's very comfortable there because there's a lot of green space. And if you go to most of the villas in the same area, you're going to feel much hotter. That's because they've maintained a lot of their vegetation and microclimate quite well. Passive design is all about optimizing the building envelope so that we can live in that building space and spend time in the surroundings without feeling excessive heat. Heat tends to absorb into materials, walls, paving, all kinds of things, and is re-radiated back. That has a large impact on making the microclimate uncomfortable in public areas and inside buildings, increasing your energy consumption from air conditioning. So we do a lot of work in making buildings more thermally efficient. One, so that they can be experienced without air conditioning, and two, when you need to turn on the air conditioning, that it's much, much more efficient. We do a lot of, obviously we use a lot of software as well, but this is an example of where we're optimizing a building to reduce direct fenestration or heat gain through roofs and windows or glazing. And you can see the improvement, in this case, the decrease of direct radiation from the sun through certain windows. And you can see strategies that we use to reduce that. In this particular case, it's an external shading device. standard energy efficiency appliances do a lot. Gold standard right now is LED lighting, inverter air conditioners, heat pumps, solar panels, water metering, and building automation systems. So that can be as simple as a guest room management system or more complicated like a BAS. But when you add that all up, you can have a pretty massive impact. So this is an example from an eco resort in Ubud where you have small individual villas, no pools per villas, luckily. But you can see that the energy consumption in the rooms decreased by about 40 to 50% because of implementing a lot of these best practices. Renewable energy generation, so solar panels is a big standard. You guys are very familiar with that. In Indonesia, the payback right now is somewhere between 4 to 7 years, depending on what kind of panels you're using, where they are, and how they're oriented. But getting a payback in 7 years on renewable energy is great anywhere in the world. On-site waste management. So the key, we don't have waste management in Bali, right? Not really. I mean, 52% of our waste is going into the environment. So we want to make sure that tourism is having a positive impact or at least being responsible about their waste. So separation at source is key. And then, working with recyclers to recycle all the waste that you've separated, because you can then recycle waste that hasn't been contaminated with food waste, and composting on site. These are 3 really big, really important things that can have a massive impact. Some of our clients that you may know are Potato Head and Waterbomb. Both of them send less than 3% waste to landfill. Massive impact in their actions, but also a lot of work to get to that point. Obviously, they're quite serious about it. We typically start with trying to achieve 80% managed, 20% to landfill. But it's you can see how far it can go. Composting typically will do what's called forced aeration systems. So this is where you have perforated pipes and compost piles, and you can speed up composting from 6 months to 2 months. This is what the eco resort in Ubud kind of looks like. And overall, on the total impact of this particular one, we reduced their energy consumption and water consumption by around 47%. And we're able to reduce their CO2 emissions by almost 600 tons. Also reducing a lot of chlorine. Chlorine, by the way, is quite harmful, right? One, it has a massive environmental impact in its carbon footprint. And 2, it's a chemical that isn't healthy for the skin, the hair. People don't feel very comfortable in it. So the minimization of the use of chemicals is really important, especially in eco resorts and wellness places. So as promised, here's an example of what the finances look like. So this is one of the examples that I showed you before. I won't tell you which one, but what's nice here is you can see, okay, this is in rupiah, but you can see that investing into a lot of these sustainability principles is going to cost the client about another $350,000, but they're going to save about $100,000 a year from these efficiency gains. This is, by the way, a life cycle cost assessment, so it includes maintenance, repair, replacement of the equipment over its lifetime. And you see that these investments are going to pay off in about 4 years for the client. Now, that's great because your eco resort isn't going to pay off in 4 years. So investing in sustainability can make your investment more resilient and pay back quicker, and it makes financial sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maitri, for an excellent presentation. I'm not quite sure what was said at the outset, but what we propose to do is for each of the speakers to give, 6, 7, 8 minutes presentation, and then after all of the speakers have presented, I hope that some of the speakers will have questions of other speakers, and then we'll open it up for attendees. What I'd like to do now is jump to Rio. Agus, I'll come back to you shortly, but what I'd like is to introduce Rio Vito Tabora, is the founding editor-in-chief of Travel Asia Now and co-founder of Asia Sustainable Travel, with over 20 years of experience in journalism, hospitality marketing, and destination storytelling. A former hotelier and strategist, she brings valuable insight to the webinar through her expertise in purpose-driven content, brand storytelling, and sustainable tourism communication for eco-focused properties. So over to you, Ria.
Thank you, Ross. Hello and warm greetings to everyone tuning in from around the world. Mabuhay from the Philippines. So whether you're having your morning coffee or having your afternoon tea or late night snack, we're really delighted to have you here. Thank you for joining us. So my name is Rhea and I will discuss how eco resorts can achieve real impact without sacrificing business success. Maitri has shared some figures earlier, but I would like to reiterate 75%. Did you know that 75% of global travelers say they want to travel more sustainably? And these are the people who are more, likely to book an accommodation if they know it's eco-friendly. And this is according to Booking.com Sustainable Travel Report in 2024. A lot of statistics, and I'm glad that actually Maitri showed some data-driven stories earlier. But at the end of the day, what does eco really mean? We hear a lot of terms: eco-friendly, eco-lodges, eco-resorts, eco-tourism. And the answer to this big question lies in having clear, measurable, and genuine sustainability-led practices. So for businesses, this means moving beyond surface level efforts like, buzzwords or token gestures. So which means eco is about setting standards, being transparent, backed with data, and making an impact, and always improving, like keeping assessing and refining your efforts. Now, before we talk about solutions, let's talk about two big challenges in sustainability efforts. We always hear about, come across greenwashing. And this is when businesses make themselves look more eco-friendly than they really are. For example, a resort may brag about eco-conscious luxury, but they still rely on non-renewable energy or use lots of single-use plastics. And then on the other hand, I don't know whether you've heard of green hashing. This is also something that is coming up quite lately. And this happens when businesses downplay. So it's like the opposite of greenwashing. So businesses downplay or stay quiet about their sustainability efforts. And it happens because maybe they're worried about criticism or feel like they're not doing enough. But we'd like to remind hospitality industry players that staying silent is actually a big mistake. Why? Because guests value transparency. If you don't communicate what you're doing, it can confuse people and hurt the trust you've worked so hard to build. So now, very briefly, we talk about certifications also, because this is very important as well. And these sustainability certifications have actually sparked plenty of debate in the hospitality industry, because some people think certifications mostly help big chains or luxury resorts that can afford them. But those smaller businesses who might already actually be doing a great job with sustainability can find it hard to justify the time and cost of pursuing sustainability certifications. But having a closer look, certifications actually offer clear benefits. They give you a clear plan to figure out where you stand on sustainability. They help you identify areas for improvement and set priorities. So it's not just about label, it's about progress in your sustainability journey. And they also educate your team, highlight achievements in your operations, and show guests you're serious about accountability. Now moving on to actionable strategies. So my point of view is a little bit different. It's a collection of the information and knowledge I gathered from, attending conferences and interviewing industry experts. So these are some of the actionable strategies to help for eco resorts to build trust and drive real impact. So very, very important. First step is to set clear, measurable goals. For example, if you want to reduce water usage by 20% within 3 years, and then implement water-saving technologies. Second is openly share successes and areas for improvement. So publish reports, share stories, public press releases, but make sure that you back them with data. Data is always very important. And then engage with local communities. So you collaborate with local businesses, partner with local suppliers, showcase traditional crafts in your spaces, and create job opportunities for the local population. Then organize activities that celebrate local culture and heritage. So activities like cooking lessons, showcasing local ingredients, guided nature walks led by community members, or hosting farm-to-table dinners using locally grown produce, those types of activities. And then eliminating single-use plastics, replacing them with biodegradable or reusable alternatives, because we all know plastic pollution is a huge problem that we all want to solve. And then another one is implementing biodiversity conservation initiatives. So working with local government, local environmental groups to restore habitats, plant native trees, protect wildlife, these kind of strategies. And then with balancing sustainability and profitability. When we talk about sustainability, people often think that it comes at the expense of profitability. But that's not the case. Maytree has shared some, valuable statistics earlier, and I've also written several articles and interviewed industry experts on this topic. And here are some of the strategies I gathered. Investing in energy efficient operations as the first one, because solar panels and smart water systems might cost upfront, but they'll save you money over time. And then second is make your guests stay unforgettable. So organize fun, eco-conscious workshops and tours, design programs that showcase the local culture. If you have time, I want you to check Mega World Hotels and Resorts Sampaguita project. I love this. I love that project. It's a homegrown brand in the Philippines, and guests love because of the added experience and also generated revenue for the hotels. Third, source responsibly. So using local materials and hiring local talent is a win-win. We all know that. It supports the community, it cuts down transportation costs, and gives your brand a more authentic vibe. And then, of course, monitor ROI for sustainability efforts to inspire you with your journey, because measuring progress is key, because obviously you can't improve what you don't track, right? So in this case, also you can consider using a sustainability management platform to monitor your progress, so to record and monitor your progress. So just a quick checklist to help eco resorts build measurable impact while balancing profitability. Start with transparency, engage with the community as we discussed earlier, design eco activities, use certification wisely, treat them as a guide and a trust signal, not the end goal, because a lot of, there are hotels and resorts or eco resorts that use certification as a, just because of the marketing tool, just to tick the box. But if you use it as a guide, then it's a helpful tool for the eco resort. And then monitor ROI. So as we discussed, sustainability and profitability aren't opposites. They go hand in hand. And when eco resorts go beyond greenwashing, openly share their efforts, and involve their guests and the communities, then it's a win-win for everyone. And I would just like to end, remember, hospitality isn't just about offering a place to stay. It's about creating meaningful connections with the environment, with local cultures, and your guests. So for case studies and examples of sustainability-led hospitality and travel, visit asiasustainabletravel.com and travelasianow.net. We publish a lot of stories and insights there. Thank you. Over to you, Ross.
Thank you very much, Ria. Truly appreciate it. You covered a lot of territory in a very short period, and I'm sure that many of the attendees will have questions for you, hopefully towards the end of our webinar. But I found that quite fascinating, and I thank you very much. Okay, just quickly rolling forward, is Elias with us at the moment? Elias? No? Okay.
Yes.
Pak Argus, I'm going to invite you, if you would, to give the next presentation. Pak Argus Uzara is the head of Nawacita Pariwisata, Indonesia, and vice chairman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, with over 38 years of experience in tourism, real estate development and investment strategy. His deep expertise in project planning, financing, and cross-border collaboration positions him as a vital choice a vital voice, at least, in the webinar, particularly on issues of regulations here in Bali, investment readiness, and sustainable tourism growth. So over to you, Pak Agus.
Good evening, Ross.
Good evening.
Ross, Mr. Agus already spoke as the
I
first speaker.
already explained. Yes.
I'm
Ross,
sorry,
while that you was away, he spoke already. So I think
Oh.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's
I spoke already, Ross.
one problem. There you are. That's what happens when you've been kept in the dark. But okay. Well, I'm going to.
I spoke the first one.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, our next speaker is Sonia Gottlieb. Sonia is a seasoned sustainable tourism advocate and Eco Lodge pioneer with over 30 years of experience developing eco-friendly tourism ventures across Madagascar, the Indian Ocean, and Africa. As the former general manager of Boogie Pilgrim and the visionary behind Zara Camp and Bush House Eco Lodge, she brings invaluable expertise in Eco Lodge development, community engagement, and responsible tourism standards to the webinar. So over to you, Sonia.
Thank you very much, Ross. I will try to do my best. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I just make it go. I'm talking to you from Madagascar, from the northern island part of Madagascar that's called Nosy Be. Just for a short introduction, because I have the feeling that most of our presentations are from Asia. So I'm a bit on the other side of the Indian Ocean. Madagascar lays, so it's in the Indian Ocean, fifth biggest island of the world. Just to give you an idea of the size of the island, because it's not a small island compared to Mauritius. You cannot compare it to the Seychelles or Réunion, which are our neighbors. We are, especially if you compare it to Europe, you see that we are as big as France is, for example, including a bit of the Netherlands. And so this big island is known as a hotspot of biodiversity. And we're doing very little tourism. So actually the context is it's a fast growing population. We have actually about over 30 million inhabitants on this huge island. And the biggest, I would say, challenge for any kind of economic activity is the poverty, because with 80.7% of poverty range, which means that is the indicator is people living with less than $2.15 a day. We have, you can imagine the challenges the country has. In terms of tourism arrivals, also to give you the whole picture before I go deeply into my own activities. Sorry, it's in French. As you can hear, my accent is French too. Well, I'm German, but I grew up in Madagascar my whole life. And you see, compared to the region, our figures are very little. So this was in 23, but in 2024, we did not even reach 300,000 tourists arrival. And compared to the small island Mauritius, which is, you can hardly see it on the map, they have 1.3 million guests because they have a big touristic strategy. And then if you we shouldn't compare, but if you compare us, Madagascar to South Africa, who has more than 8 million, you see that we have really very little tourism. So yeah, so my name is Sonia. I like this sentence. I had an eco lodge in Africa. In Madagascar, I used to have the bush house for 33 years with 14 cottages on the east coast. For 22 years, the Zara Camp, which was another type of lodge, tented camp lodge in South African style, near to a national park. And over 13 years, or exactly 13 years, the Mananara Lodge, a forest lodge in a private forest conservation area. So all over the island. So remember the size of the island. The lessons I learned from experience, was really to make a kind of difference, or to give more insights to our beautiful presentations, because I think we're all complementary. What in my type of context, which is an African context, the first lesson I learned is that investment realities in developing countries are different. The first key challenge is how to own a property, because it's difficult to find out ownership, and as a foreigner, you're not allowed to own properties, so you must find alternative, difficult montage to become owners. Then it is also another investment reality is that it's hard to find investors who trust in a touristic project in unstable developing countries. And the bank sector is not really helping us, because tourism is considered as a risk sector, which is not really, which is pretty true. Because in developing countries, several types of crises can happen, starting from political unrest to let's say medical problems like health issues like cholera or big chikungunya. We have chikungunya kind of malaria epidemics, and this is all happening before COVID as well. And on top of that, we got COVID as the whole world. And then the other big reality is the lack of institutional support. Whatever you're doing, there's no regulation for encouraging really ecotourism. But we should, as I mentioned at the start, we are a hotspot of biodiversity for the world. So ecotourism is the main type of tourism we should develop. And of course, corruption is part of it. So this small lodge I had just around 100 kilometers north of the capital, Antananarivo, had the Mananara Lodge was because it burned down in 2014. I had 5 units there, and I was managing a conservation area of 5,000 hectares because of rare lemurs, because we are the land of lemurs living in this forest. And the reason the lodge burned down was a conflict about the property, the land. So a conflict I was not even concerned directly, because I was not the owner, but the person who was the owner had a conflict with local communities. Other lessons I learned are operational challenges we have in this type of environment. So in this type of environment, the most beautiful places are always in remote areas near to national parks, without road systems, without airports. And we also have limited flights to the destination, Madagascar. That's one of the reasons why we have less than 300,000 visitors a year. Another typical climatic problem is the climate change. So we have more and more stronger cyclones in our region, more and more. Just to give an example, in December this year, there was a super cyclone over 310 kilometer per hour winds. It happens on the 13th of December in our region. And then uncontrolled bushfires are part of a problem as well. So as I mentioned, we can have bushfires who are done by local communities who try to often who are doing charcoal illegally, and it's not well controlled. Then another operational challenge is these expensive to get access to renewable energies for your lodges. So it's expensive equipment that is all imported without any support from government. as well. And then a very important problem is if you manage to have the road, if you manage to build your lodge and to have power made by yourself, then you need to find qualified human resources, right? And in these remote places, you're going to meet mostly people who didn't go to school. So you will meet completely unqualified people, and there are very little hotel schools in the whole island Madagascar. And this second tented camp I built in 1998 was in the mountain. So you see it's up to 2,600 meters high. Madagascar has also high mountains. And we had about 14 units there in a tented camp style. It was inspired by South Africa. And we did train. The whole team is a local team from the surrounding villages. And we trained them in all needs an eco lodge can have. So we had our own, of course, cooks, and also our own drivers and eco rangers. And the last lesson, because there are many lessons, but I'm not the only person talking today. The one I thought it was important to share with you is, of course, it's all about sustainability. I think I have some experience in that way because we got international recognition already in 2008 by winning the Responsible Tourism Award in London. At World Travel Market. We went through international certification with Fair Trade in Tourism. Our 3 lodges were certified in 2014. As tour operator, we were a Travel Life partner already in 2015. And personally, this is what I'm actually doing. I'm also a trainer for Travel Life, Green Globe, and teaching sustainable tourism standards for the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. So I know that sustainability is really key, but in our context, as visitors of Madagascar are aware that it's about nature experience, it's very often considered to be a trip of lifetime, because traveling to Madagascar is expensive. We are pretty far from most of our source markets. And most of our clients were planning to come to Madagascar once in their life, to see once in their life lemurs living outside in nature, not in a zoo, and seeing these huge baobab trees you see on my profile. And my longest experience is this one, the bush house. So it's the longest one because this was the house you see there is the house of my parents from my childhood. And as I grew up there, and I transformed it into a small eco lodge from year to year, slowly but surely. And we ended up after 30 years with 20 bungalows built of local material. And just to end my presentation, the experiences of these 3 different parts of Madagascar, and also I've been also a tour operator for 30 years, specialized on ecotourism and outdoor adventures, all type of adventures in the whole island. The first important before having any certification or whatever, you need just to have a good sense of inclusion, and you must be sure that of the acceptance of tourism by the local communities. It's more important that aspect is making your project sustainable. It's not a certification that has only recognition in your source markets in the northern world, because if you're not doing bad in your own context, it's not working. You might lose your operation, your lodge, because it will burn, or you might lose it because you have bad service and lots of human resource problems, and so on. So the institutional framework needs to support you. Institutional framework means you have to work in a destination where your government is understanding tourism first, and then supporting the private sector by protecting environment and ecotourism activities. I mean, by giving how do you say, incentives to operators who want to go really eco. So global tourism, tourism in the globality needs to be understood and accepted. And then very specific for a developing country like an African nation like Madagascar is that expectation is very high when because tourism is in many places, in remote places, and often the population thinks that tourism is going to solve all their problems because tourism will open the road, will give jobs, will protect environment, it's not true because we cannot replace what the government should do. And at last, but not least, it's very important for this type of destination to educate our visitors. To educate them means by selling, when you sell your product, when I did lots of trade shows for 20 years in Germany and in ITB, like ITB, WTM, all over. And it's very important to make sure that your visitor is understanding what they will meet in your destination. And and then you see this funny logo. We come from Madagascar, not the movie. As you're in Asia, and many people, this movie was the Madagascar movie was very famous there, but it did lots of wrong to us because in that movie there are penguins and elephants and I can't remember how many African animals we do not have at all. In Madagascar also 30 million human beings, and it's not a movie. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Sonia. That was a fascinating insight, and clearly, I think you've demonstrated for all to see that eco resorts encompass many variations, different sizes, different localities, different challenges, and we're glad that you're able to join us this evening. What I'd like to do now, I think all the speakers that have presented have spoken, and so what I'd like to do is,
Ross, no,
yes.
not all the speakers. We still have two speakers, Mr. Elias as well. He's still.
Well, Elias is not here.
Oh, he's here.
Oh, he's here.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
I asked a little while ago whether or not maybe he's a late joiner, Elias.
No, it was.
Oh, here we are. Well, let me do the introduction. Elias Najim is a seasoned expert in real estate investment and asset management with over a decade of experience structuring and optimizing property portfolios across Europe and Southeast Asia. As managing director of MMI Advisors and a former head of finance and asset management at Invest Islands, this is a group on the island of Lombok, he offers strategic insight into eco-resort investment, viability, financial structuring, and long-term asset performance in emerging markets like Indonesia, making him a key contributor to the webinar. And I've known Elias for 3 or 4 years and have seen his involvement in a number of resort projects, including eco-resorts. So over to you.
Yes, thank you, Ross. Well, I will not have a presentation because I see that a lot of people were lagging into your presentation, so I decided to go, open speaker.
Sure.
Glad to be part of this webinar and glad to see that there's people from all over the world. Thank you, Sonja, also to talk a little bit about Africa and the other area of the world. I'm myself from North Africa, Morocco, and France. And I've been involved in Indonesia for 5 years in the real estate industry, mainly in hospitality, because tourism is a huge game plan for real estate in Indonesia. Just to give a few figures, last year we have about 40 million tourists that visited Indonesia. Half of these tourists went to Bali, so 7 million tourists more or less in Bali, and the rest is spread around between Lombok, Flores, of course, Jakarta and Java, and a few other areas in Indonesia. So as an introduction, I would just give a few elements about what's happening in Indonesia from a perspective of an ex-investment banker. I was involved in investment banking for about 10 years back in Europe. So I had the opportunity to invest and manage substantial portfolios, mainly in at that time mainly office buildings and retail or shopping centers. So in Europe, we have a pretty strict regulation. And if I link this to sustainability, we created metrics to be able to capitalize on all investment that were made into sustainable endeavors and equipment or material. And we could understand what are the ROI of each component of a building. So we created also associations. We were sharing information, and data is a capital component of how we could define sustainability in the real estate world of today. So I would say that pragmatically, I don't have access to this data in Indonesia. So when we make an investment, I use basically the knowledge that I've gathered back in the days in Europe, and I try to learn as much as I can how we can integrate this knowledge into the hospitality developments that we are building here in Indonesia. So in a nutshell, in Indonesia today, there are 10 super priority destinations that have been highlighted by the government. Sorry, I said 10, 5. It was 10 before. We called it the 10 new Balis. So the 5 super priority destinations are located in Sumatra with the Lake Toba, which is one of the biggest, if it's not the biggest lake of the world. Second one in Borobudur, which is also a UNESCO protected area where there's a huge temple called, in Borobudur area. We have Lombok with Mandalika. There's a circuit, there's MotoGP circuit, and potentially the future Formula One circuit in Indonesia. They're still under talks to make this project happen. Today, the MotoGP is happening. It's been already 3 years now. This year will be the 3rd year of the MotoGP event. Then we can always talk about is it sustainable or not, but I think that we can come to this topic a bit later. And Likupang in Sulawesi, which is mainly oriented towards snorkeling and let's say maritime tourism. And the last one is Flores, also related to Fenici, boat trips, diving, and in general, maritime tourism. There's also a marina that is planned there. So the government tried to spread away the tourist arrival in Indonesia. And if we compare also the number of tourists in Indonesia today, I hear a lot of elements that, okay, we are suffering from over-tourism, mass tourism, etc. I'm sorry to disagree with that. I don't feel and I don't think that 7 million tourists in an island like Bali is over-tourism or mass tourism. I mainly think that we should have a more critical aspect about the quality of the infrastructure. Because if we compare other countries such as France, Spain, Italy, China, the US, we are talking about even 3 digits number of millions, like it's over 100 million tourists in France. And we're not talking about over-tourism in France. So I think that sometimes it's important to tackle the issues at the origin. And for my perspective, again, it's a panel, we can discuss that. The problem of tourism in Bali, mainly, Bali is the main hub of tourism in Indonesia, is that the infrastructure is not following the arrivals and the expectations of the government in this beautiful island of Indonesia. And when I look at the presentation of Groen, Flo, and Eco Mantra with Maitri, I'm really happy to see that this is the trend that people potentially we might be the same generation. This is the trend that we would like to develop in Indonesia and internationally. I think that we've been educated in a way where sustainability is part of our future and we know it. So if I summarize how I would see it as an investment manager, the first thing that I would look at is the legal framework of the country. Today, if I follow the regulations that are happening in Indonesia, let's say that it is quite light. So how, as an investor, you will capture a certain investment target, it's by potentially look at where would be your investor located. So if your investors are located in Indonesia, I can already tell you that they are not looking at sustainability. They are looking at a return on investment, and that's it. You're not going to talk about I'm building bamboo, I'm building blah blah recycling. That's a non-topic. You know, like I'm sorry to be pragmatic about that, but it's important to say the truth. However, if I'm looking at investors from all over the world that are potentially investing quite a substantial ticket in Indonesia, these investors, they are following certain regulation in their hometown, and they will not be able to invest in projects that are not at least filling certain criteria of sustainability. So ESG programs, CSR programs, social and responsible investment policies, UN SDGs, etc. All of these elements, if you want to attract investors from abroad and to bring them in Indonesia, you should integrate at least a certain number of sustainable guidelines and environmental pledge to your investment in order to be able to achieve your fundraising objectives. So the first element will be education, the origin of your investors. Then you go to the second point that will help you build also your project: eco resort, eco lodge, eco development. We can put eco everywhere, but if we manage to define it properly, then we can build it in a way. So when we talk about building, what kind of materials are you going to source? And thank you, Rea. In your presentation, you've also mentioned this point. Sourcing is key. I'm going to give you an example of a development that we will start to build hopefully Q3, Q4 this year in Nusa Penida. Nusa Penida, for example, have seen 1.5 million tourists visiting the island. We're also talking about kind of an over-tourism in the area because it's starting to be a touristic Disneyland. People get there, do a day trip, and then go back to Bali because there's not enough hospitality offer in Nusa Penida so far. And the infrastructure is not yet developed enough in order to accept the flow or to absorb the flow of tourists visiting the island today. But we decided to go there because we consider that it is a high potential area, and we would like to offer a 5-star boutique hotel experience that is showing sustainable guidelines. So one of the main challenges that we have is sourcing the material. So of course, when you are in a remote islands, and Nusa Penida is not that remote, so it's just, let's say, between Bali and Lombok, you need to bring the material in the island. So if you need to bring the material in the island, you need to pay an overcost to bring this material. You need to pay transportation costs. You need to potentially even order more elements in order to have a contingency in your sourcing and procurement program. So all these points, what kind of material you're going to use in order to be as sustainable as possible. And in this example, we talk about sustainability as when do I need to replace this different component of my building, and how much is the maintenance cost and the replacement cost. Everything has a ROI and IRR, so this can be calculated. And then, of course, we do an arbitrage and we see, okay, we try to, it's like a chef in a restaurant. We try to cook something that makes sense with the budget. And once this is done, and it takes a lot of work and energy, we've been working on this project for a year now. And I will be happy to collaborate with Maitri because I see that his job is really fantastic and this data is amazing. And we need to have more person like, people like Maitri, like having this passion to talk about how we can be more sustainable. On the other side, I will need to look at the figures because that's also how we can decide to choose or not a material or an equipment, knowing that it's not only the economy that you make over a certain number of years in terms of ROI, it's also how you discount your economies, your savings that will happen in the future to know how much it will cost today. So that's something that is quite important for investors. And this is why sometimes they rather go for something simple, non-sustainable, again, depending on the definition, compared to something that is a bit more expensive, but when they would see the savings over years in the future. So if you add 5% here, 10% there, and 5% here, and 10% there, at the end of the day, you might not be doing the project. So this is where we definitely need to have a lot of preparation and professional people that helps in the cooking of any developments happening all over the world. And to connect the latest element to the build phase, we can talk about government policies. And this is a huge driver for sustainability. In my opinion, there is no sustainability without government incentives. I know it's a bold statement. Some of you might disagree, some not. But I was looking at, for example, some incentives to build this resort over here. And the idea is to create a chain and to expand in Indonesia, to have Indonesia as part of our DNA and then grow internationally. But then I started to look at, do we have any incentive if we buy solar panels, if we use different type of material or equipment that are showing super nice ranks and good qualification for sustainability purpose, whatever benchmark we might use. And at my surprise today, there are none. So is it an incentive for me to go to something more expensive when I have investors that are looking to an ROI and a return on investment over a certain payback? And I'm like scratching my head to say, okay, what kind of element can I integrate in this program in order to achieve a certain certification? And I know that you touch base on this one too, Rhea. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to put as maximum element as I can, maintaining the budget and the costing and the price, of course. The price is another point, but let's say the budget and the costing to have, at the end of the day, a return on investment that is forecasted and that gives me a certain risk management program that is a little bit based on some international benchmarks. That will help investors to invest in the project. So if we don't have to come back to the first statement, if we don't have government incentives, it will be complicated to integrate a complete holistic vision about sustainability in Indonesia or in any place over the world. The last element related to government incentives is taxes. In hospitality in Indonesia, I'm facing this problem at the moment, actually, and I'm talking to different tax advisors and in order to tackle this issue. We cannot deduct the VAT in a development of a hotel or a resort. If you say this to anyone in Europe, they will not invest. You know, like it's basically 11% over cost in the development. So and there's no way to offset this VAT. So, and this is absolutely a nightmare for an investment manager. To pay a tax that you cannot offset doesn't work. So again, if there are solutions, but in general, for someone that will come to Indonesia and will try to develop a substantial program and looking at the tax and administrative issues, it might freeze a bit some FDIs to be able to come and say, okay, let's go, let's rock it. So that being said, if you look at the positioning and how Bali and Indonesia is gaining on brand awareness over the world, the returns are still good. And I think that Ross as well have a lot of data and research about different areas over Indonesia. And we see that the returns based on ADRs and occupancy, they are correct. And this is why some FDIs comes today into Indonesia, and where will they invest? Most of them, they are looking at eco-responsible developments and high-quality hospitality. And this is why I think that the project of Flo and Grun is hopefully also performing pretty well. So in a nutshell, if we look at a development in Indonesia, Indonesia has a pretty huge spread of 17,000 islands. Transportation might be an issue and will be an issue. Sourcing the material will be an issue. Selecting the right equipment and material that will help you build a sustainable resort financially, but also environmentally and socially, connecting with the local communities. We are in an Asian environment where it is important to live with the people around us and not be secluded and only live between us. Keep the open-mindedness to absorb and accept different cultures. And the last one is try to not do too much, because there's this 17 SDGs that are proposed by the UN, and it's a really good job. And Indonesia also signed off this paper in order to improve sustainability development goals over Indonesia. If you are a developer, I will always recommend to choose 2 or 3 areas where you want to excel instead of choosing all of them and doing nothing. And I've been involved in a few elements where we try to do a lot, and at the end of the day, the impact is nearly none. So,
Elias,
yeah.
I'm sorry. No. I guess I don't want to interrupt, because I think I am interrupting, and I apologize. I think we need to move on. But having said that, I think that you have explained in great detail the complexities, all the moving parts. I think you've given an excellent overview of the challenges that developers and investors have, and I truly appreciate your insights, and I'm sure that the audience has got a lot of good information and some thoughts from it. So what I'd like to do, and I do apologise about cutting you off at that stage, Elias. What I'd like to do now, I think, open it up to the panelists. There may well be panelists who would like to ask another panelist one question, and I was going to suggest that we start with Florian. Any of the other speakers would like to ask a question of Florian, if he's still here? He is still with us. Are you there, Florian? No, maybe not. Well, a question of Ria. Is there any?
Yes, Ross.
Yes. Is there a question you would like to ask any of the other panelists? Something that may have provoked some thoughts, disagreements or agreements, or expansion of some of the thoughts that others may have expressed?
Hang on. I think yeah, either yeah, Flo is not here, so maybe whoever is managing an eco resort, or maybe in Madagascar area also. How have you, because sustainability in hospitality is a learning curve for, you know, for all industry players. How have you avoided or recovered from, you know, from like the common mistakes in eco resorts or lodges in pursuit of sustainability goals? And Ilyas also shared, you know, lots of these challenges earlier. How are you able to recover from those challenges?
You're asking me, Rhea?
Well, yes, Sonia, as an industry player, you know, because especially you've been exposed to various types of, you know, operating eco resorts.
Well, so I would clearly say, as you might have noticed, that everything stopped in 2020. Okay, so I lost these properties to the banks due to COVID. So COVID was the worst crisis. I couldn't manage to survive, because exactly for the same reason, in this type of country, you don't get any support. So there's no institutional support for this type of event. But all the other, the years before, because I've been working 30 years before, I found several solutions by, for example, let's say the human resources. I found out that, well, I took human resources, I engaged people coming from the highlands, from the highland of Madagascar, where they have hotel schools, but they were not really willing to work in these kind of bush lodges far away from their place, you know, and in other ethnies, because we have 18 different ethnies in Madagascar. So it was difficult. So I found out after a couple of years that it doesn't work, and that it's better and more sustainable to train the local communities around surrounding each place, and to use your neighborhood and to help your neighborhood immediately. So we built over 3 public schools, small schools in close to each of our lodges. Community nearby, and also to give the opportunity for our employees to stay there longer and to put their children into a kind of school nearby. So this was one of I would say, the most positive experience. It did work.
Thanks.
Human was, yeah.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, Ria. Anyone with a question for Maitri, given his very extensive knowledge of all things sustainability and measurement? Any of the panelists would like to ask Maitri? Elias?
Ross,
Yeah.
excuse me, Ross. Before we come to Maitri, any chance I ask Ria a bit?
Sure.
Or maybe Sonia. Ria, how that the government or the organization or stakeholder monitoring and controlling the eco operational facilities like yourself in terms of achieving the sustainability itself?
Sorry, Pa Agus. If you can kindly repeat that.
How that your local government controlling and monitoring the goal of the development of eco resort like yourself in terms of the sustainability itself?
The local government.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, but I just didn't get a question. Which means the local government monitoring because just to set the perspective right, Pa Agus, I'm with a travel publication, and I didn't quite get the question. Sorry.
For the eco development
Yes.
facilities, like in the resort that you just explaining or sharing, how the government controlling the requirement of achieving the sustainabilities?
So I think what he means is the role of the government in the sustainable tourism or sustainable eco tourism.
Yes, especially for the purposes. Is any control or any supervising after the operational of the facilities?
Well, because I think for example, Pa Agus, in the context of the Philippines, for example, there are local government units, right, that oversee one particular locality. So and if you talk about sustainability, for example, if in the context of one eco resort pursuing a sustainability certification, for example, just to drop a name, say green destinations, then all the qualifications or all the checklist will be following the sustainability certifications, but the role of the local government will vary from from one location to another, and then also there's national government that is involved as well. But in terms of sustainability, the involvement of the government in sustainability operations, sorry, I'm not really familiar with the in terms of operating, because I don't operate a hotel, a resort, Pa Agus. So
okay, yeah, I know. Okay, sure. Thank you. No worries.
Or maybe someone can help in
Yeah.
answering that question. Yeah.
We may come back to that if we have more time. I think Pakagus and Ria. Moving on, if I may, any questions of Maitri? Elias?
A question for Maitri?
Yes,
I
yes, a
have a
question
lot.
for me. Pardon?
I have a
I'm-
lot of questions. I really appreciate the data that you shared, and I agree with everything that you've said in your presentation. Like, I would just maybe talk in general, but how do you feel about your company? Is it basically growing? Do you receive more demands? How do you see people behaving towards sustainability? Do they feel that it is important now to integrate basically your input in their program, the reset program, or do you see that it is pre-COVID levels? How would you see the growth and the future of your involvement in real estate developments in Indonesia and potentially internationally?
Well, we're fortunate enough to be growing every year in a very healthy manner. And we are seeing that the interest is increasing, so to say, every year. COVID was tough, I think, on any business. Luckily, we survived. And, 2023 and 2024 were great years, better than pre-COVID. So we feel quite confident in our service offering and value proposition, so to say. We're seeing that most of the demand, we've very well understood the type of clients that we have. You did make a comment about, Indonesian clients versus foreign clients and what they might value. I don't completely disagree. Most of them do value primarily ROI. But we're seeing a lot more, I'd say maybe 70% of our clients are, let's say 60% of our clients are not related to Indonesia, as in not related to Indonesians. They are not second generation Indonesians or first generation Indonesians, so to say. Nowadays we have a lot of anak blasteran, like half Indos, half foreigners that are in the space as well. So including them. We see a lot of interest from Western companies and people from abroad or businesses from abroad that are coming into Bali that are very worried about the environmental situation. They make up about 60% of our business. Our Indonesian clients increasingly are more concerned about the environment. Most of these clients are, educated abroad, and come from a history of wealth and investment in property, and they also see the impact of what they're doing, and they want something better. I would say about 15% of our clients very clearly are just interested in the ROI. They do exist. Yeah, so things are going very well for us, at least.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think I should, and thank you, Maitri, for your contribution. On that note, I think we should draw our webinar to a close. This is the first of a number of eco-related webinars that we propose over the next 6 months. And I want to thank you all of our panelists, for sharing such thoughtful and diverse perspectives. And clearly, there's an enormous amount of goodwill towards the concept of sustainability within eco resorts. But there's clearly many, many challenges, but there's also a lot of great expertise. And I think you've seen that on display this evening. And thank you to Dr. Reza and the Institute of Tourism for the magnificent work they do, sponsoring these innovative webinars around the world. Thank you, Dr. Reza. Today's discussion reinforced that while the path to truly sustainable eco resorts is complex, it is achievable with the right investment mindset, operational discipline, and commitment to both people and the planet. We look forward to continuing the conversation in our upcoming webinars, and as we explore the evolving future of eco resort development around the world. And I thank you for your participation and look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. The recording and everything else will be tomorrow on the website, including the
everyone. Thank you. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Thank
Bye.
you, Ross.
Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
Thank you to all of you. Bye-bye. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Risa. Thank you,
Thank
Raj.
you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Wait for you
Bye-bye.
in Bali, everybody.